We are here with an Epiphany conversation, a very special guest tonight because we actually need some laughs in our world today and always. Annabelle Gurwitch is here. We're so honored. The humorist, actress, activist. She wrote this incredible book, I See You Made an Effort. You see it? It's 50, coming for most of us. A lot of us actually are 50 and above. I think Annabelle has an interesting statistic in there about how many people are turning 50 in the U.S., like every few seconds. So she has a hilarious take on it, and it's just fun. It's lively. It's about life. And Annabelle, I gotta say, I laughed as well as cried reading it.
Well, I'm so glad. I wrote this book before. I'm going to read a little excerpt from it. But I start. First of all, I want to say I'm 52 now. I started writing this book when I was 49, and I thought, oh, great! I'm writing these collection of essays, and it'll get published when I'm 50. We'll have a big party. But my menopausal brain works so slowly, it took me 2 more years. So I'm turning 53 this year when the book comes out, right? When the book came out. But these stories were, each chapter is about a moment when you realize that your life is different. And the funny thing is I think that all the kind of things that happen in this book, if they happened individually, it would just be hopefully a hilarious story of a kind of indignity, and whether it's something from taking your kid to a concert and realizing that you have become completely invisible to the band, to when you're looking at that skinny singer on stage and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to take him home. I want to take him home and make him nutritious snacks for the road. Things different. I find someone sexually attractive who can fix my computer. That's the turn on for me. Or, stories, on the other side of the spectrum, it's stories about an assisted suicide of one of my best friends, of realizing I'm at the age now when I know which are the good cancers and which are the bad cancers. And my friends are going on internet dating sites at this age, and my friend Christine was matched with 2 people, a homeless guy named Bling Bling and her brother. No kidding. You can't make this shit up, right? So,
oh my gosh, that's awful.
I know, right? It was just unbelievable. But then, there's a story about taking care of my parents and all these different things that isolated, they could just be things you go through as an adult. But together, I realized they were a portrait of hitting middle age, and there's a reason why I called it, Compliments, Indignities, and Survival Stories, because it's all of those things. Ultimately, it is a survival story, because I do think you have to find a way to make things work for you in a different way. We all have these different coping mechanisms that we use throughout our life, but a lot of those are things that you do when you're younger that you can push through with a certain amount of energy or moxie. Or one thing I wrote about in the book is how your youth and your beauty, and everyone is beautiful in their own ways, but when you're young, you're beautiful in a particular way that opens so many doors that you don't even realize will later close only because you're not young. And that is something you don't realize until you get older, that there's just, but then there's something else that comes in. There's wisdom, there's sisterhood, there's community, there's a better sense of humor. There's, for me, it's a lessening of perfectionism. There's all kinds of good things that come in, but it does things, things, there are doors that close. Fertility closed for me, and not that I wanted to have more kids, but just knowing that I couldn't was a really big deal for me.
It's hard. It's a hard thing to hear.
Okay, I've never told this story before, so I'm going to tell it on this Epiphany conversation because I think you guys will appreciate this before I read this. Okay, I couldn't fit this in my book. It just didn't have a place in the book, but okay, so at 49, I had, oh, I can't believe I'm going to say this, I had my IUD taken out. And my doctor had said, like, for the last couple years, like, you know, it's not really doing anything in there because I stopped in but I was attached to it. I had been through so much with my buddy there. You know, we had been together. And
Me and my IUD.
We did a lot of stuff together. You know, I was like, I cried. I mourned the loss of that, and I told him that I wanted to save it. I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought, I should save this. He's like, what are you going to do, make earrings out of it? I'm like, well, there's only one, and that would be 280, asymmetrical.
Those two
so he takes it out, and I'm like tearing up, and he gives me a minute, and then he says he can't find it. I said, what do you mean you can't find it? And he said, well, and he got very flustered. He left the room, and I started digging through the garbage in the gynecologist's office before I'm realizing, wait a minute, I don't want to put my hand in there. Besides that, what if I find someone else's? What if I take home the wrong IU? Anyway, I ended up leaving without it. I left the office without it. But this was this weird moment of, this physical acknowledgement of the end of my fertility that, I mean, I never got that far in my thinking when I was younger. I mean, not that anyone could have pictured the ridiculous moment of crying over that, but but I never had imagined far enough ahead to imagine myself really at this age, and that really took me by surprise. That's part of this whole thing that I think about the experience of hitting middle age, that can take you by surprise if you just didn't think that far ahead. And I think for so many of us, we are living in a different time, generationally speaking, than our mothers. We're hitting different places. Many of us, I am a reinventor. I started out as an actress, and now I still act sometimes, but I mostly write. That's my profession now. So many of us were entrepreneurs, we're reinventors. So we're really living a different life than a lot of our mothers. I mean, your mother was Gloria Steinem. She didn't have any kids, but I mean, my spiritual mother was always Gloria Steinem. But you know what I mean. We didn't have those models in front of us of how to do this. So in my book, it's more like a how not to do. It's like a to don't book. Don't do this. But I did want to irreverently write about this experience. And for me, I just didn't relate as much as some people do to some other fantastic writers. Let me just say, like Anna Quinlan, who people love her writing, and I have loved her writing. But her writing about this passage in life, like in that book that she wrote, Plenty of Candles, Lots of Cake, I just didn't relate to it because she writes about her summer home, her city home, and her slow-cooked stews and her little Adirondack chairs by her lake. And I'm like, I don't have a city home and a country home. I got one home that has a mortgage that I hope I can hold on to this home. I don't have a lake. I've got a little brackish water outside in my yard, and I've got some rusting aluminum chairs outside. It just I wanted to write about the anxiety of this age that I know I feel as I lie in bed and wonder what third world country I can retire to, and I follow the stories in the news like, oh, you can retire to Costa Rica, but your house might not be hooked up to the plumbing. Oh well, no sewer system. So this was my goal, and I'm hoping when you all read the book, some of you've read the book, that it gives us a feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only person out there going through this. I hope I've written some things that that really, take as the say in England, I was married to a Brit for a little while. Take the piss out of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Really, just irreverent and talk about what's in our, at least in my subconscious. So, so would this be a good time to read a little?
We have a little excerpt that Annabelle's going to read, and
Okay.
cue Annabelle.
Okay, so this is an excerpt from the last chapter in the book, and I hope this is okay that I'm sharing some backstory. Are you guys okay with this? I'm telling you some stories about writing the book and stuff.
Yes.
When I wrote this chapter, this wasn't the last chapter that I wrote. You know, it's a series of essays. They're not exactly linear, but they do sort of build to this. But this was one of the first chapters that I wrote, and I thought to myself when I wrote it, this is going to be the final chapter. It's just one of those funny things that as a writer, your brain is like all puzzled, and I knew this was like the last piece of the puzzle when this opportunity for this story came along. And in this story, it's a story about one of those things that can happen at 50, which is I got diagnosed with osteoarthritis, which my grandmother had, but because she was a Depression-era person, she never complained. So I never knew how terrible it was going to be. I never knew how painful it was to have arthritis.
Fingers.
Yes, I have these, like, my fingers are a little bit more knobby than they ever used to be. And it's, you know, it's not, it could be worse. I have hands still. There are, I mean, you know, really, it could be worse, but I was unprepared for this, and it happened because something triggered this, which was putting together my son's trampoline. I love to do, like really, I like to clean the gutters in my house and do these things, but I just went all out, and I totally screwed up my hands, and I come home, in this story, I come home from the rheumatologist, and I decide to get back on that trampoline with my son because he had said to me, "What's the matter, Mom? Are your bones so brittle because you're so old?" And I thought, screw it, I'm taking him down. So I'm on the trampoline, and I'm going to start this little section. And I start to giggle, and I can't stop, and I'm laughing so hard the tears are streaming down my face. "Mom, stop it, Mom, stop!" But I can't. "Why are you laughing?" he demands, and I can't tell him that I know that I will never win his game, and I can't follow the rules he's made up, and I will definitely need a massage, if not a Xanax, to correct the damage being caused right now. And that with every jump, I am moving one step closer to having those cartoon-sized kitchen utensils. And I can't tell him that I am trying, and that sucking is the best that I can do. And that my inability to save is because I'm 49 years old, and I'm on my way out of this life, and he's on his way in. And you can't tell children this. Children don't want to know this. And even if you said it, they would never believe it, and they probably couldn't hear you because it's like a high-pitched dog whistle that people over 40 can only hear. And I'd be his Dr. Nudgy, and I don't want to be another person saying youth is wasted on the young, and that in its absence you will long for it. Like someone you had great sex with but couldn't wait to leave because you had nothing to talk about. Or that you knew you were on borrowed time and it was wrong to be using someone like that. But that thing that he did when you rode him backward and he'd slide his thumb inside you was truly inspired. And that you had to break it off, even if there were a few slips where you showed up in the middle of the night begging him to do that thing just one more time, because it was going nowhere, and you felt guilty when you were with him, but that didn't stop you from missing him. No, I definitely can't tell him that, so I'm laughing instead. "Why does it bother you that I'm laughing?" I ask between giggles. "You're making fun of me." "Oh, no," I say, "I'm not making fun of you." And that stops him cold. "That's the last thing I'm doing," I say with real compassion, but he's still mad at me, and when I stumble and fall, he throws the beach ball at me, and I think of the Botox that I had injected in my face the week before, and I say, "Not the face, it's very expensive." "You can still win, Mom. It's only 7 to -1. I can't win, Ezra, and it's okay. I say, why can't you dive for the ball, Mom? Why can't you just dive? And then it goes on.
So
Wait, I feel like I should get to the end, though. I'm just going to skip for a second.
Okay.
And just go to this very last bit because I feel it will be good. So, so then so I was just talking about this. And then I bounce higher, and I think about how much I hate Anna Quinlan, her early successes, her Adirondack chairs, her backyard pond, and her slow-cooked stews. I've never had the patience to make a cold soup. I've had to reinvent myself professionally several times. I have an old wooden-style, camp-style picnic with rotting benches, and the only pond in my backyard is a green plastic ice tub that's filled with brackish water. And that's when I switch into gear. Getting a good hate propels me into action. Thanks, Anna Quinlan. And I dive, and I'm giddy, and it's the best feeling in the world, and I bounce harder, and I feel like I'm drunk, and I'm pacing the ring like a prize fighter that's gone too many rounds, and my son says, Mom, you look sore. And because I know him so well, I know he means sour. And he makes a face at me, but I've lost my facility of speech, and I'm Raquel Welch in 1,000,000 years BC, or Mike Tyson, and for a minute I think I could bite someone's ear off right now. Mom, you've got something hanging out of your nose. Urgh! A guttural shriek comes out instead of words. Mom, you're like an athlete now. And I want to win, and the tarp is slippery, and the score is now 7-3, and my mascara is running down my face, and a line of drool formed at the corner of my mouth. And I bounce over, and I push out a fart in his direction.
I can't believe it.
What are you doing? You're crazy. And my son just walked into the room, so I'm going to stop reading for a second.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you how your son felt about the book. Should we just ask him?
All right. Should I finish it, or should we stop right there?
Ladies, what do you think?
Oh my goodness. That's great.
Your poor son.
I'm going to just say, at the very end goes, he wins, I lose, and I say, I've deliberately farted in front of my kid. My face is a mess, and I feel every one of those 50 years, and it feels kind of satisfying. And I have no idea what the future looks like, but I can still dive in, and I intend to keep on doing it. So fuck you, 50. I own you. You're my bitch. There's only one thing I know for sure, and that is that everything is going to hurt like hell tomorrow morning. And that's a little bit of that. And
that was my favorite part.
the thing is that my son, of course, doesn't know about any of the book because I wrote it. And he wants nothing to do with me because he's a teenager. And I don't know, one day maybe he will read it. I hope not. But I think I'm safe for a few years because teenagers want nothing to do with you. So then you can actually write about them. Obviously, they're not. I don't tell his secrets. I only write about my perspective. But he would be mortified, as if you could see his face. His face when he walked in was, I hate you, Mom. Actually, it was so beyond that. It was just like, so the mortification, it was still, he didn't have to actually move at all. It was just the silent, evil stink eye. So, that's a little bit about the book and a little bit from the book. And did you guys have any, questions or want to sort of talk about it, an epiphany conversation?
Ladies, what did you have in mind? I have a ton of questions, but I don't want to take the whole floor. So, anybody want to jump in?
No one jumping in.
Freaking silence. I know
Put
that.
your brain together.
Okay, I know that, and Leslie and I had spoken a bit yesterday that Annabelle, you're very funny, and this book is amazing, and that it had me laughing. But first, let me tell you, I was like smiling through it. Okay, I laughed out loud because it just felt like a friend talking to me, and she's my funny friend. My funny friend
Oh,
keeps
that
me,
makes me
laughing and
happy.
stuff. And then when I laughed out loud was when you were at the Middle Ages commercial thing.
Oh.
You were. Now, see, by this time, it just wears you down how fun this whole book is. And when you and the face were trying to jockey your way into having a leading, extra
Yes.
role after a whole night of filming, and you took the title of the book and you said, I made an effort to look this terrible. I lost it. I lost it. It's the silliest
Oh,
thing. And I
thank you. Thank you. There's something like, there's a funny thing about being this age where there's a trend now. There was an article about it in the paper the other day about middle-aged people working as interns.
right?
And of course, what is more frightening than an internship at this age? But there's something also about this age where I think you also get the strength to say, I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, I'm doing it.
And you,
After a career of having, I did this show, Dinner and a Movie, for many years, whatever. I mean, a mid-level, but a good mid-level, solid career. I just couldn't get work. And I went back to doing something I'd done at the beginning of my career, which was making commercials. And, that has been actually really fun. I love doing the work. But, the ability to put your ego aside is something that I think that one hopefully gains with age, but was also kind of hilarious to be finding myself in this position where basically I'm dressed like a crone in the Middle Ages and I'm running through the streets carrying with a torch on fire, and then just the whole ridiculousness of this whole ridiculous business where, first of all, there was no fire training. It was so. A guy steps up to a group of people who want to be actors. Now, first of all, do you really want to hand actors lit torches? I mean, people who want attention when a camera's rolling.
but I'll do it.
There was no questioning of like, hey, what kind of medication are you on? Same strange man with no teeth, because it was a thing that was taking place in the Middle Ages. Do you have any suicidal ideation? Have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor or a felony? Whatever, nothing. And they just handed out these torches on fire. And of course, I took one. Who could resist? It was fun. But we're running through these wet streets. I'm thinking, I could just die. Someone could just light my head on fire. What the hell am I doing? And I covered in dirt, and I'm like a gunny sack. It was just, it was sort of everything that I had never thought my career would lead me to at 50, running with a pack of rabid, background people in a commercial. And I thought, you know what? Whatever I got to do, I have to do in this life. And it was, in a way, it was very empowering to be in such a, basically, to find myself playing a serf, to be serfdom in the Middle Ages. It was unexpected, and hopefully that story will make you laugh. It's really about, resiliency, but it was just so funny. And yes, the actress who
The face.
known by Face, yes, it just, the humiliations of show business are just right there for you. You want some? They've got it for you. And you have to just laugh. You must just laugh.
I gotta say, it was strategic. Now I think I realize why I laughed so hard, because it was strategically placed as the chapter following the death of your friend.
Yes.
That
Yes.
was the next chapter. The next chapter was something so silly, and we had just been through that chapter, and the name of the chapter, if you remember the phone number.
Yes, 8283886. That was one of my best friend's phone numbers, and I titled that chapter her phone number because I thought it was for I thought what I wanted my reader to do was to take a moment and think about the phone numbers that you still knew, because there was a time, right? This is one of those sort of age-related issues or nostalgias that we at this age have, when there was a time when I knew phone numbers.
Yeah.
And there were phone numbers that I'll never forget because I had to, know them. I couldn't outsource my brain. And the funny thing is now I can't even learn phone numbers anymore, but I still know my parents' old phone number. That doesn't work anymore. My aunt and uncle's number. My aunt is now deceased. The number of one of my best friends, and that's her number in the story. And it was, so the story, that the title really refers to the things that we leave behind that are just carved grooves in our brain, And then after that story, I really felt you needed some relief, so it's sort of like a phoenix rising from the ashes. This, I'm playing this crone in the Middle Ages, carrying this torch, and I'm going to run through the streets and just crone it up, and
as
just
an extra. Yeah.
born to crone, So it was. I felt it was a real, a rallying type of chapter to bring you out of that intense place, if you went to that place in the chapter with the assisted suicide.
Yeah, and I also thought it was very interesting that you put that chapter in, because if I read it right, you guys had a falling out, you and your friend.
Well, with any really close friends, friendship isn't, perfect, right? And it was a sort of a strange. I really debated a lot about how to write about this, but I wanted to write about this and reflect the kind of friendship that you have when you have a friendship that spans over 2 decades, which is a friendship of ups and downs. I mean, when you make a commitment to someone in friendship or in marriage, it's not all smooth sailing, and so it was important to me to really try to reflect that and to reflect upon that and the kind of commitments that you make to people, even when you're not always happy with them. So this group of friends who did this, who did the care of our shared best friend, and then were there for the hospice care, and then assisted her in her exit. All of us had different moments with our friend, as one does, and I wanted to tell that story, the story of imperfect friendship as well, and imperfect decisions that you make. I just didn't want it to be wrapped up in a bow of like, my best friend, we loved each other and everything was great. There were some not great moments, and there was hilarity in the most tense and saddest moments, and that's what I'm always trying to capture in my writing are both how all those things live together. To me, that's what's really interesting and hard as a writer. And sometimes I think I'm successful, and sometimes I mean, this is what one does. I think as a writer, you just keep trying to, as any kind of artist, as any kind of, in every business, right? We all try to improve. So hopefully I've been able to get some of that into that story, some of that hilarious imperfection and horror. It's that line between horrible and funny that I'm always
That's what it was. I mean, as I mentioned, my friend Leslie, because you and I were talking about basically sad moments of the book. I think we kind of went there. Were there ones that you wanted to point out?
Yes, I mean, and some people had said to me, like, why do you have to do that? Why? Actually, that's, before I published it, I had some questioning about which levels of kinds of places to go, but those stories have been really well received. And I mean, writing a book is so hard. Like, I could have written 3 other versions of this book, and I did write 3 other versions of this book that all played with different levels of humor and comedy and seriousness. And there were some stories I chose to tell, some I didn't tell, and the way you tell them, you know, you're just trying to get this balance, or at least I am. And you know, it's a challenge, and I'm glad that people have accepted these more serious stories. I just felt, because the book isn't a memoir, it's a memoir of hitting middle age. It's a memoir of this particular time. I needed to do justice to that topic by not only telling certain funny stories. That's just the kind of writer I am. I can really see how other people would do it in a different way, but that's just who I am.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't want to ask all the questions, so you guys jump in whenever you you want to.
I have a question.
Cheryl.
Yeah.
Hi, Annabelle. I'm Cheryl from Las Vegas, and
Hi, Cheryl.
I know that you have a teenage son, and
Yes.
you've already turned 50, whereas I'm not quite 50 yet, but all my kids have moved away from home.
Yes.
So what do you expect to come across when that day comes that you've hit the 50-mile marker, but then as your son moves away from home, do you think that is going to compare to turning 50? Because then when your kids leave home, I felt like, oh my God, I must be freaking old. My kids are old.
Oh.
Yes, you know, it's funny because I mean, you're, you know, there's, generationally speaking, I mean, there's a lot of us who still have kids. I'm 52 now, I'll be 53 this year, but, you know, there's a lot of us who are in this place where we still have kids at home, and then some of us who have kids who've moved away, and I think that those, though the hitting 50 and the kids, the empty nesting thing, I think I may have to do another book for empty nesting. I mean, in a way, I kind of wish I had done both at once, because, I mean, then you just get it over with, get this transition thing over with. It's so daunting, you know. I think about that, and I try not to go there yet. I'm really trying to stay out of that future, because I'm really nervous about it.
Oh, wow.
I really am, and that just might be a next book, because there's so much to look forward to, and the dread, and I have loved being a mother. I mean, it's a really interesting time when you think about it in terms of sort of the feminist spectrum, and the way that we're, you know, I find some of that stuff, like the lean in and that kind of stuff, that to me is very marginal experience, because that's really a business book for CEOs. I'm not a CEO, so I think some of this sort of intense debate about that is just kind of just for fun. I mean, it's not as essential as, because really she was able to do what she's able to do because she's so incredibly wealthy. I think there are other discussions that are more apropos to have for the rest of us, which are just, it's the juggle that everyone's in, and not, you know, and it's so hard to manage all these things. And on the feminist spectrum, you've got the ability really to coexist as a woman in so many different ways right now. And that's really interesting, because I have friends who are having completely different kinds of life experiences, in terms of some friends who didn't work through motherhood, some friends who continue to work, some friends who decided not to have kids, you know. And I think people in earlier generations, my mother, her peer group, first of all, she really had less of a strong peer group, but if a peer group, as it were people going through the exact same experience as her, you know, we, I think, get a chance to be much more fluid in terms of organizing ourselves by our interests, and that is just a really interesting time. So you, Cheryl, could have such a different experience than me, and yet I get a chance to watch you go through that. You can watch me go through that with much greater transparency. Also, when you think about earlier generations, particularly the greatest generation, you know, those were they were right after the silent generation. There's still some of that there too. And even my mother, there's a lot I don't know to this day about my mom, because people didn't reveal as much about themselves. You know, how did she really feel as an empty nester? I think she basically closed her bedroom door and came out a few years later. You know, I don't think any of us want to do that. So I think it's really interesting and new territory. And every generation has its challenges. It's not like, oh, we invented challenges. Oh, everything is so hard. Well, you know, everything's always hard in different ways. And, I mean, you know, it's just a really interesting time. It's a very interesting time to be alive in the first world. I don't know, I'm also having trouble every single day right now thinking about those Nigerian girls. That is, I know we were talking about my book, but it's so crazy, the information overload, and just knowing like that's happening on the other side of the world is so upsetting. Why, you know, I mean, as just also being a woman, just being a mother, thinking about these girls, it's a crazy part of our existence now, that we exist in our lives, but we also exist in the worry for the rest of the world, or in the actions we take for the rest of the world too. So very interesting times.
We know what can be done. We know what's possible, but maybe some people never got that privilege to know what's possible, and it's baffling. It's true. It's true. You know,
Yeah.
I was on earlier with Annabelle, and I was saying I've been tweeting the president of Nigeria all day, going off on him. I'm just like, you know, just you know, that's where our mind was. But you know,
his wife too, and his wife. I don't understand her.
What a travesty! She's just terrible.
She's got the standards. She's got power. Her power is more important than.
Does she have power? Yeah. But that's why I said we'll take a night to laugh, you know, with Annabelle. But
I'm sorry, brought us down. Yeah.
No problem. But I was also interested in seeing why you put that. You had a little night off from your husband. You put that in the book, and I thought that was really interesting. It seems like everybody wants to do that. You actually did that. I remember a friend of mine, she said she went on strike. She had a husband and 2 boys. She just went on strike. I mean, but you took the night off and left the house and came back in the morning.
Where did you go?
I went to, there's a story in the book. I went to a friend of mine's couch. It was very glamorous. I shared, well, actually, it was her guest bedroom. I shared.
Okay, I like it.
I shared. She's a mother of 2 who's divorced. Her husband left her for a woman he met in their church marital therapy group.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my
God! And she has a guest bedroom, and she has like a live-in babysitter because she has an autistic daughter, and the babysitter the night off. So I was staying in the babysitter's room with the babysitter's like 120-pound Rottweiler. It was. I don't think I slept more than 5 minutes that night, but so it was not a very glamorous night. Let me just say, it was not like I ran away to Tuscany. It was not. It was as close as I could get to eat, love, pray. But
But do you advise that, Annabelle? I mean, was that good? I mean, because he seemed pretty cool when you got back. But I mean, you know, was that cool? I mean, was it something you advise?
You know, I think it's really. I wrote about it because it's not perfect, and that is, of course, what interests me. And you know, my husband and I have been married for 17 years, and when I was an actress and I was hosting television shows in particular, I would go away a lot, and that was good. Because, you know, familiarity can breed contempt, and when I was really writing about that in that chapter, though, is about the middle, and it was about that chapter is about being in the middle of a marriage and how hard it is, and I just don't think you get enough of that in entertainment, whether it's writing. I mean, particularly in comedy, I feel like there's a lot of comedy that surrounds the beginning of things. There's all these romantic comedies about the beginning, you know, weddings and wedding planners, or even divorced people getting remarried or finding new people. But what about people who are just in the middle? And what about that? You know, what about shedding some light on that? And that, you know, can include things like running away to a hotel for a night. So, or your friend's couch on my budget, or your friend's, you know, Rottweiler bedroom. I covered with a lot of dog hair, and I'm a cat person. That was really my so,
that I don't understand.
You know, that was a low point. I mean, that was really a low point at that moment, and I'm interested in that, you know, as a writer and even as in comedy. I mean, I like Louis C.K. I like his comedy because it's really raw, and he's kind of schlubby and he's not perfect, and that's the kind of comedy that I really like. And so you know, there was a lot of comedy in running away that night to a place that's not glamorous, you know.
But you know what, Annabelle, it really stuck with me, because I remember when you two talked, and you said that you had different thoughts about marriage. He said, I thought there'd be more fucking, and you said, I thought you'd have more money. I thought that was just, it stuck with me. That I remember. I could quote you.
Thank you. You know, I think that's one of those lines that, I mean, you know, now there's a lot of things in the book that are sort of fictionalized.
That should be a pillow.
That line I did not make up.
That should be a pillow. Just a pillow for everybody's apartment.
Yes.
I'm going to get that for every date that walks into my house.
Yes. Isn't that funny? I mean, it's like, instead of like, you know, those little aphorisms, I thought there'd be more fucking, I thought there'd be more money. You know, it just somehow encapsulated so many
I'm going to put that on Tinder.
Oh, yes. I love that. Love that. Thank you for remembering that line. You know, it's funny. When I do readings, I get stuck. I read a lot of the same stuff, and I think, why am I doing that? I should read that. That's a funny. Who wrote that? Oh, well, you know what? My husband and I both wrote that together. It was one of those good.
Right.
It was one of those good moments. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. We got a comment here. Nicole, you should produce a documentary starring Annabelle named Me and My IUD. Like, what's that story?
I can't believe I told that story. I cannot believe
well, it's from my friend Abiola to remember. She's the love goddess. So.
And that's empowering to the rest of us women. We know we can talk about vaginas and IUDs and not care because Annabelle did it.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's so funny because it's like I play tennis with a group of women, and they read my book, and then all of a sudden everyone was talking about their dry vagina one day, and I just thought, do men do this? I don't know. It was just kind of fantastic. Do you know? It was just kind of really fantastic, because also, you know, there we are. This is one of those things I started doing as I got, you know, a couple years ago, which is playing tennis with this group of women, and it's been so great because I'm not a gym person. I'm so bored at the gym. I know, Nicole, you went to the gym, and I love that you did that. But I get really bored doing that. But this way, I get exercise, and I get some friend time in there as well. And so it just works out so perfectly. And it's just been a really great thing. That is one of the messages of the book, if there is a message in the book, besides what we're going to put on our pillow. And it is that, you know, you need, the sisterhood is really important, I think. It gets more important as you get older, even. I really value that in a way that I never even expected to be so essential to my life. Even more than I thought. It's just primal.
It's true. It's true. It is inherent in us, I believe. Well, we're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but Annabelle, really quickly, has anyone offered you like to option the movie rights on this book? Has anyone made that offer to you?
Well, you know, there's some interest, and we shall see what happens. I really hope so.
It was so scenic.
Oh, thank you. You know, like I had these thoughts in my head about scenes like there's a scene in the book where the woman turning 50, that's me, is really excited because I actually was a little sad when I realized I didn't need to buy Tampax anymore. It was a crazy thing.
I can't believe you keep them in the house because of that memory.
Well, then I figured out that I could buy them for my son's girlfriends at the bathroom, so in case they need them. So I was like, yes, I can go out and buy Tampax. Yeah, I got a reason. And I went to the store, and I had this like flash of myself as a teenage girl. Yeah. Who was like, I used to hide them under magazines and heads of lettuce, and I had to, even as in my 20s, I was embarrassed. I had to, you know, and now I was like, do you want anything else? Nope. Nope, here's that box. Ready to bag no, I was just like so excited to be seen in the vicinity of fertility. It was just, but I see that scene, so I am really hoping that this will get to come to life on the screen. That would be really exciting. Really exciting. So I hope so.
If not, you have experience as a playwright, so
yeah,
you know.
I'm going to be performing that. I'll be actually in New York this summer in August when everyone's leaving, the beginning of August. So not the end of August when it's just terrible. But I hope to get to see some of you guys when I do that. That would be great.
I'll come see you. Yeah, definitely. Me and Victoria will make it a date.
Yes, definitely.
Great.
But we have our women in the Southwest there, and then I know Veronica's in Maryland. So is it going?
Oh, I'll be coming. I mean, we've talked about doing a tour, so I will be getting around. You know how to find me on Twitter at Annabelle Gurwitch, and I'm on Facebook. I'm easy to. I got a website. I got the online stuff. So.
Okay, wonderful. Any final thoughts, anybody?
I have one. What would be your heinous crime? You said in an interview that women over 50 disappear. So what's your heinous crime?
You know, where do I start and where does it end? I would like to, there's two things I've always wanted to do, and one of them is to deface Victoria's Secret. And with graffiti that says, I know Victoria's secret that she's 18 and she's never had children. I would like to replace my picture and your picture, all of us, in our, I don't know where in our Victoria's Secret, like to see what real women look like. I get really angry every time I walk past or drive past a Victoria's Secret. So that could happen. I could, if you hear about, like, you know, some kind of guerrilla activity, you know, let's do it together. Let's do it in the city. Yes. That's one crime. That's one crime I dream of. I think about that crime. I do.
Oh, Thank you for answering.
And now the police are on their way to my house. Oh well.
Oh
my gosh.
Yeah, we'll join you.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
I was going to ask, hi Annabelle, this is Tracy from New Mexico. So maybe put a stop in Albuquerque on your book tour.
Great.
And I'll drive the 7 hours to get to you to see you.
Great.
But how cathartic has this been for you? Did you feel like you got to process all of this? I'm turning 50 in September, and it's a little daunting. And what happens next? All of that things. So has your writing been cathartic for you?
You know, the writing was cathartic, but even more cathartic, I would say, has been this experience, this kind of experience, traveling around the country on the book tour, meeting readers, talking about the subject, getting to to destigmatize it by just giving it a voice. That's the actual writing itself wasn't as cathartic as, I mean, it was such a writing exercise. Do you know what I mean? You're writing it. There's so many different levels of thinking about stuff. Part of that is just a writing craft thing. But actually getting this kind of exchange with people, it just makes me feel really good for having opened up this topic, because when I see all of you and when we can laugh about this and we can talk about it, it just, you know, there's the catharsis, which is of course the sharing and knowing you're not alone, and it's transformative. So it's this experience, it's this part of it. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. You write a book and you go like, oh my God, what will I get to share this with people? And this has just been, it's been really amazing since the book came out, which is actually 2 months to this day.
All right.
My 2-month anniversary.
We're waiting for the next event. You do so much, so not just a book.
You know, I've got dates in Scottsdale coming up. I've got a bunch of stuff already scheduled. It's on my website. Come, stay in touch with me, and I'd love to meet in person.
Oh, great. Well, we'll get that out too.
Great.
Okay, ladies. So I think we're wrapping up. Anything else?
Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you guys for coming. This is so cool. Nicole, you were so right. It's so cool. It's really cool.
It's very cool.
Yes, and thank you for my pillow idea.
I love it.
I thought there would be more fucking. I thought there'd be more money.
You gotta do
I want to put that on my Tinder right now.
I love it.
You gotta do one logo on each side. So
right.
Right. You know, if someone comes to pick you up, flip it around. It's
right, exactly.
Oh, that's so funny. I love that. One on each side, depending upon what's happening.
Exactly. You can change it according to the mood, so when he walks in the door, he'll know.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Great.
Well, we're ending tonight on from what we call a hen party in the old days. Thank you, Annabelle Gurwitch. Thank you so much for the laugh tonight. We needed it with what's going on in the world, and your book is just a very fun read with a lot of heart. I see you made an effort, Annabelle Gurwitch. Thank you so much, Annabelle.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye. Happy Monday.
Okay. See you soon.